Recording live from somewhere. It is the Tissue and the Tape podcast featuring Davis Backwards and Who States Your Name Gangsta.
Philmatic 365, aka Lost Son of Wakanda.
Hey.
What up?
Hey man, what's going on, brother?
Hey, you know what it is, man. Just happy to be back, man. Fresh out the mountains, with the family. We got to get you up there, man. This was one of them things that I didn't know how it was gonna go, but it couldn't have went more perfect than how I thought it should have went. So, man, definitely shout out to the War Room. Shout out to Deb, Jim, and all my new extended family.
All right, it's a beautiful thing, man. Yeah, definitely.
Like excellent. So
yeah, I was excited to see, the pictures. Obviously the champ, she filled me in. She gave me a little play-by-play here and there. So she told me what was going on, and she was just like, "Yo, now they're here arguing about the word female. Oh man, you missing it." So like,
yo, that was crazy. I don't even want to get into that. Let's just stay far away from that.
She was like,
that was
he was like, they're using their outside voices. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it was on 11 in there,
but yeah,
no, it was dope though.
Definitely glad to hear that. I love anytime people get together, especially our people.
Yes.
And do our thing. By the way, speaking of our people, please check out Tally and Twine. I mean, please. They
fine timepieces from the homie Randy.
Yes.
Definitely shout out to them. Fine black owned timepieces at that.
That's right. You can get 10% off if you enter the code TITT as you check out, and you definitely can get a gift for, even though Valentine's Day is past. Don't have to worry about that.
Timepieces for the ladies now.
Ladies, guys, gentlemen, get your watch game up, courtesy of like you said, a black owner doing this thing, entrepreneur, man. Shout out to Randy. It's tallyandtwine.com.
And as always, the first 10% is on us. That other 90, you got it.
Yeah, that's on y'all. Phil, let people know what we're doing today. You got a smile on your face. I got a smile on my face. We got some new energy in the building that we're about to interject into the tissue, into the tape deck, man. What's popping?
You already know, man. Old school, new school, need to learn though.
Yeah.
Hey, man. Few months back, we had the lovely Ivy Rivera on the show, and she let us in on her homie who hadn't the most experience with hip hop, and she kind of put her on blast a little bit, and in
a good way though.
Oh, in a good way, but a few days later, the favor was returned in a good way, and so we had this great idea. Let's take this beautiful young lady who has not heard so much hip hop, and let's see how she could experience it as a person that's never heard, what we consider to be classic. And then in turn, we would get some of her selections, and as the quote unquote dinosaurs, we would see how we survive in this brave new world. So I reached out, and sure enough, everything worked out. And today we have in the building, we have Miss 24Jaded herself. What's going on?
What's going on, y'all? It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, man. I'm glad we can make it happen, man. Live and direct from the extended family of Tissue and the Tape from the borough of Long Island, or I should say the city of Long Island.
Yeah, you're on Long Island, right? That's how you say it? You're on Long Island.
That's how you say it.
I guess you could put it like that. For me, it's not too deep because I'm right on the border of Queens and Long Island, so I could literally walk into Queens if I wanted to. So I'm not so deep, but yeah. consideration wise, I guess Long Island.
Our brother, he's out there in Manhasset. You know that?
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's like 20 minutes out.
That's further in, obviously, like way in there. But yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been out there with him in Roosevelt.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We out here.
Yeah. I mean, you know, for us like non-New Yorkers, we like be like, you know, we kind of like we'd be like, Long Island City. You're like, yeah, okay,
kind of, but not quite.
Right. We see you, okay, all right, you know that.
So you guys are both from Philly to get it right. So
I'm from Virginia.
Okay.
We met in college at Hampton University.
Okay.
And essentially, I lived in Philly for 12 years. My wife is from Philly. You know, got a lot of family from Philly, so Philly's my second home. But
and my second home is Virginia, where he grew up, where I live now.
Oh, okay, that's dope.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like after college, I went to where he grew up, and then he went to where I grew up. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, through this thing called the internet.
Hold on. Did you hit us with the aw?
Yeah, that's so cute. Y'all like intertwined.
Wow.
It's all good, you know. It's all good. I was about to say, through this thing called the internet, you know, we've been able to connect, and we initially started our movement, which was Hip Hop 365, about 6 years ago, and then we did the podcast. Podcast is going on 4 years this year, so we've, you know, just our whole thing is, you know, one of our things is, of course, is conservation through conversation, and we really just look at it like just trying to conserve the culture, whether it be through us letting people know that dope stuff exists now, or in the case that we're speaking to you, letting people know that dope stuff exists back then. You know, so it's just a trade-off. So this exchange thing that we did with you is totally in line with what we're trying to do. So completely. Yeah. So I'm excited. Low end theory. Now, Phil, I'm just gonna talk about this for a second, and then I'll let you talk about it for a second. But it means a lot to us in particular, because it kind of really is like the soundtrack to our formative years,
to our youth.
Yeah, like the years where we really were learning like who was who and what was what, like that essentially what was playing, and it really formed a like, if somebody tells you that their favorite album is Low End Theory, like you already feel like you have a friend or a brother or a sister, or you have some type of kinship, like off the rip.
Absolutely.
Like it's like that. Like you
build bonds over it.
Yeah. So like some of our like closest friends, it just so happens that they could tell you that album inside out, backwards, forwards. And it just becomes an organic bond. So when we speak to people that, that are younger than us, whatever, or that may even be our age that haven't heard it, we want to make sure that that's something that you get the chance to experience, just because we know how it made us feel. And I know, based off of some of the things that we know that you do that same thing as far as putting people on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The thing. So that's my take on Low End Theory, just briefly. Phil, how would you explain it, like in terms of like when you think about the album?
Well, see, I look at it like the years where you really start like connecting with the music, those first albums or songs, like in those years, are the ones that stick with you the longest. So you gotta, when this album dropped, me and Vi were 12 years old. So
okay,
this is you're not quite in high school, but you're starting to see things from a different perspective. So this is the start of what, 7th grade for us.
Yeah.
You know, this is that. I mean, it was September 24th, 1991. So we're literally, you know, starting school. This is the soundtrack to that entire time of our life. So this is what bonded me and several of my friends that I still have to this day. A kid, Ryan Mann, who I went to middle school with and high school with. We're still friends to this day because of this album. Me and my brother Brian Johnson, we're friends to this day because of this album. Because this is the thing. Oh, you like Tribe? Oh yeah. What's your favorite song? Blah blah blah. I didn't even meet Brian till 2 years later, but this was still a connecting thing. And then I met Vi in '97, and it was another thing that bonded us. So it just kind of brought people into the circle. Because they weren't outcasts at the time, but they were just alternative to what was popular at the time. And they just brought a whole different sound. Like very few things sounded like that at the time. So imagine hearing something that you never really heard before. It wasn't their first album, but it was the breakout album, if you will. You know, even though the first album was successful and critically acclaimed, this was the one that, you know, and it also happened to launch, you know, the career of Busta Rhymes. So it was just, it had so many standout things. Spike Lee directed one of their videos. I mean, it was just a thing. So it was just a great time in hip hop because you had so much different things, but they just stood out with their sound, you know, taking the aspects of jazz and then just being this cohesive unit and building what I consider to be a perfect album, and a lot of others do too as well.
With that being said, Jade,
what are my thoughts?
what are your thoughts? First of all, do you have anything that's in your collection, whatever you want to call it, your catalog, that you consider to be a perfect album? Like that's just where this person just, there's nothing that they could have done better. When it stands amongst its contemporaries, it stands head and shoulders above it.
Well, hold on, Jay. Before you do that, I want you to tell our audience, because they always used to hearing us. Tell us about Jade. How'd you get into hip hop? Like, what drew you to the culture?
Okay, so growing up for me as a kid, I grew up in the suburbs, so a large portion of rap I really didn't get into because, you know, I was kind of the kid that was the girly girl and I wanted to be a singer, so I was very into Aaliyah, TLC, Britney Spears, NSYNC, that type of thing. Okay. So, you know, that's what I wanted. That was my focus for a long time. I just wanted to be a singer. So I kind of submersed myself in, you know, R&B and things like that. It really wasn't until I was like 13, 14, 15 that I started listening more so to rap. And doing that, I found Tupac and pretty much fell in love with that. And that was kind of tunnel vision for me.
What's your favorite Pac song?
I have a lot. I would have to say, if I had to pick 3, maybe. Actually, I'm not gonna pick songs. I'll tell you albums.
Okay.
I'll go with the 7-Day Theory, the Don Illuminati, All Eyes on Me, and I guess Me Against the World, even though for me that's not like a fun experience to listen to just because of all the things that he was going through in his life at that time. But yeah, so I found Tupac and pretty much that was like my focus. And, you know, not to, you know, give you guys a little throwback to, you know, when you guys heard about me. So for your people that are listening, when I was introduced to Tissue in the Tape, it was kind of in the context of an article that I had written at the time that was, you know, me pretty much putting it out there that 4 for 4 was the first Jay-Z album that I heard in full. And I think that kind of took Well, it did take people by surprise because, oh, how could you not ever listen to Jay-Z and listen to a full album and all that stuff? But for me, just growing up how I grew up, I really didn't focus on rap until, I got older. And even now, because, we're in a generation where I would say the sound is really changing. I don't think it's in a lot of ways the same of how it used to be. So, sometimes people like me, we kind of get stuck into just listening to what's happening now instead of going back.
We're guilty of it though. Like when we were, I don't want to say your age, but when we were like getting into like rap, like we weren't listening to, the hey, now we go to the park and we go to the park and hey, we're gonna go to the like. Yeah. We weren't.
It was. I mean, we if we had somebody to show us, like, hey,
like I get mad when people be like, oh, these young, like, yo, we weren't listening to the Park Jam like tape,
because I'm sure to you it probably felt a little outdated.
Yeah, exactly.
It definitely felt outdated.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're actually probably worse. Like, if you can listen to Paid in Full, like you can listen to Paid in Full, Rock Him, or I can listen to, DJ Light Gas Bulb, and the Parkside Boys out, the Live Jam or whatever. Like, it's just not even close.
Yeah.
So no. And
did you see the Get Down?
The Netflix special, right?
Yeah.
It was a series.
No, I never took the time to watch it, but I heard great things about it.
No, I was gonna say the difference is like what they were doing to Nas. That was like that was like the difference. So imagine us listening to like Nas and then there's we're going to kick it, we're going to run.
Big contrast.
So it was so different. So I understand when you say you didn't necessarily go back, you were just focusing on what's going on now. So I get it.
Yeah, so that's pretty much me. And I guess for me, singing kind of was something that I grew away from as I got older, and I discovered that I really had a passion for writing. So, going forth now, that's kind of where I'm putting all of my energy into, and becoming a writer and, writing for different publications and just a lot of different stuff that I want to accomplish in life. So, but that's where I am right now.
Time out.
Yeah. You just gonna lightly stunt on and not even mention any of the publications.
It's okay. It's fine. It's an open
door. We're all friends here.
Yeah.
I don't like. I'm very like just personality wise. I'm not one to like really talk about myself. So like I don't like to over. Throw the details out there. Yeah. But I can talk about it if you want to talk about it.
I mean, you can just give us the minutia, just the little,
no. Hey, if you say it, I'll talk that shit for you. I have no problems.
Yeah, facts. That's true.
Okay, so do you want me to kind of like go through like my journey as like from when I really started taking writing seriously to now?
Let's get it. We here.
Okay.
The tissue cares and don't nobody else care.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are sweet. Okay.
I figured you like that.
So pretty much, I enrolled in Brooklyn College, and at the time I started going for television and radio. And I noticed that a lot of the classes that I was taking was kind of geared towards film and writing for television. And it wasn't for broadcast and what I wanted to do at the time. So I figured, okay, well, how can I get a little bit more experience in this field? So I went to the TV and radio center, and I was like, I'm really into hip hop. I want to, experience being on the radio and stuff like that. Like, what can you do to help me? So they put me on with a show called Tea Time Radio, hosted by Ivy Rivera. And that's how, I kind of started getting into that. And we probably did a year at Brooklyn College. And after a year, we moved to a private studio in Brooklyn. And we continued with Tea Time Radio. Eventually, that came to an end. And then we started the Ivy Rivera Show. So before the Ivy Rivera Show started, I had written a blog post in 2014, and it was about Tupac and, you know, his multidimensional character. It was a long post, and surprisingly, it was just something that I did out of just boredom one day, you know, just passionate about the topic. And I wrote the post, and that was it. I just stopped writing for like a year. And one day I just happened to be telling her about it, and she was like, you know, if you like writing and, you know, you're here, you're meeting all these people, you should take advantage of the opportunity and continue with your blog. So I did. And, you know, I restarted my blog. I started interviewing producers, that went to artists, that went to DJs. And in my time doing that, I said, okay, well, I know that I can do this for me, but can I do this for another publication? So in that time, I pitched myself to R&Bass, which I landed that, thankfully. And I wrote for them for about a year or two. That came to an end because they are switching their site from writing to streaming, because streaming is the big thing right now. So in doing that, I managed to land a position as editor for the new MVMT, which is hosted by DJ Drewski, who's a DJ at Hot 97 up here in New York. And yeah, this is pretty much what I do outside of being a student in school and working full time. I write my blog posts, I interview artists, DJs, you know, producers, anybody that has a story that, you know, is meant to be told and that has something that other people can take out as a lesson. I curate monthly playlists that I put out. Yeah, I'm just trying to thrive in here.
Tell the people about the playlist, because that's something that definitely caught my eye, and you literally have put me on to some people that I probably would have never heard had I not been listening to your playlist. So
yeah, the newsletter alone, I mean, I'm reading it and I'm like, ooh,
really? Wow.
Oh, okay. But you know, but like, yo, that's like definitely helpful. So yeah, just tell the people.
Yeah. So
where
I
they
guess
can find it and everything.
Okay. So I guess the slogan of my blog site, I decided to make it "Let me put you on," because, you know, I'm speaking from my perspective and I'm putting people on this platform that I believe are dope and have a story and are not just stars per se, but they're people that have authenticity to their craft and, you know, their everyday life. So in doing so, I just decided to, you know, create a playlist because, you know, I'm always listening to music, and I feel like, you know, a large part of the experience of listening to music is creating a vibe, and the songs that come in before and after and the artist, it can really contribute to the overall feel of what you get from just sitting down and listening to music. So in doing that, and I wanted to put, you know, new artists that people had never heard before that are out here working, or even mainstream artists, and just mesh both of the sounds, you know, and, you know, say, okay, well, this is what I like, you know, hopefully you'll like it too, or you'll find something that you can take away from it. So I started the playlist, and I felt like, okay, well, how can I get a little bit more intimate with my audience and, you know, really show people, okay, this, you like this, you like this. Well, let me give you all something that's going to fit, and you can choose what you want to learn more about or not learn more about. And that's how the newsletter came about.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, we learned a little bit about your origin story.
Mm-hmm.
We understand what your, what I guess what was kind of like your gateway. I don't want to say drug, but you know, we look at music kind of like a, you know, like a drug sometimes. So we say gateway into the whole genre. It was pop for you, it seemed like.
Yeah, a large part of it was.
So we know that, and then we know you know what you do in terms of the playlist, the newsletter, your blog, you know, just some of the things that you've done so far. Now let's get into just let's get into low end theory. First of all, So when Phil and I first listened to it, like we didn't have as many options or as many ways to get this, this piece of work. We had to, either get it cassette, and then if you were on some other stuff, maybe you had the vinyl. But I mean, the CD option eventually kind of came. I didn't get my CD for like 2 years. I had the cassette for 2 years, but
I had the cassette first.
Yeah.
Wow. And then I hustled myself into a CD.
Yeah, I eventually did. But I think I ended up buying 2 tapes before I had a CD. How did you listen to it? Where did you go to find it, to put it on your device, and how did you listen to it?
I went to Tidal.
Okay, yeah.
I went to Tidal and I listened to the album in full there.
Shout out to the good people at Tidal.
And then just to make sure I was getting like a general feel of the group and, where they were at the time when they released the album, I went and I watched a documentary on YouTube, just to really submerge in it. But nice. I don't know if you guys think that I'm gonna butcher it. Do you think I'm gonna butcher it?
No, I don't know.
I'm cocky with it. Like when it comes to Tribe, especially those 2 albums back to back, Low End Theory and the ensuing Midnight Marauders, like I don't feel like there's a way that someone could listen to it. Maybe you're about to change it, but I don't feel like there's a way you can listen to it and butcher it. You can give your honest opinion, like the most you could say is it's not for me. But butcher it? No.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna butcher it. It. I feel like the way that you guys explained it, of putting it in the context of it came out for you guys at a certain time in your life. So it's always an album that you can look back on and reflect on and remember where you were in relation to other people and what was happening in your life. I think it really sets the context on a personal level. On a general level, I think that it was definitely an album that helped to change the sound of music at the time, being that the production on the overall album was very minimal. And they did have a lot of jazz influence. I think at the time it was also a good projection for music being at a point where it was changing, because even I think it's Q-Tip, he says in Excursions, don't you know that things go in cycles, so it really shows where rap kind of was at that place in time. Yeah. So I think overall it was a refreshing album to listen to, because it isn't similar to anything that is out right now. But I can see how it influenced a lot of the sound that we have right now, or opened the doors, for different artists that we have right now.
Like one of the biggest artists ever. He actually just did the All-Star Games halftime show. Pharrell, like he can barely verbalize. Like when you talk about this album, he can't. Like
he turns into like a little kid. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, like he's like an eloquent, like articulate, just thoughtful guy. And when he starts to talk about this album, it's just like a whole bunch of like onomatopoeia, like pow and da, and yeah,
like old school Batman.
It's just like it's just all like all his emotions just start to just take over, and he can't really just express what it means to him. And I think like you look at it now with hip hop being the #1 stream music, the #1 purchase music, the #1 imitated music, the #1 sought out music,
#1 culture genre in the world.
Yeah, like period. Like people are starting to realize, like, okay, this is how I feel about it too. Like certain things, it may not be something from the past, but they could hear God's plan and be like, man, I've never heard someone do this like this before. So it's a feeling that we all, I think, get, especially like how we kind of relate to each other. Like when you realize that someone's a hip hop head or someone has a certain reverence for it, it's like, okay, so you've had that same feeling that I've had. It may not be about the same album, may not be about the same time period or era, but it's definitely about something.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads us to Dave East. We're gonna come back to you. We're gonna kind of trade off. We're gonna come back to Roland. So when we initially talked about this, we talked about this exchange program. Phil was like, all right, so she's gonna give us some homework. And I'm like, oh boy.
I'm sorry. You don't like homework?
Hey, listen. Judging from the newsletter, judging by the playlist that you put together, I'm like, okay, so it's probably not gonna be XXX Stenchion. Like we probably won't be subjected to something like that. However, it may be something that we might not necessarily already have in our catalog, so I'm open for it. When he said Dave East, I was like, okay, because we've actually spoke about him on the show. Back when we used to illegally play music on our show. We've played, some of his joints before.
What up, Universal?
But yeah, we kind of probably got off that train right around Hate Me Now.
Oh, got off the train.
Yeah, because we were kind of early to it, so we were like anybody that the guys that we respect gives a cosign to. So when Nas says, "Hey, listen to this guy," we're like, "Okay,
you got
it's not going to take a whole lot."
Okay,
he already has that equity with us. So it's like if Nas says, "Listen to this guy," I'm at least listening to just see if he's nice or not, off tops, right?
Okay,
so we were already, familiar with them, and then by the time Hate Me Now came out, and then it was like, okay, like do straight. And once he started to kind of get a little bit more popularity,
you were just like, oh, he's fine.
Yeah, it was like, it's cool. Davies exists. He's in his own. He's in his own world. Yeah, he's got his lane. Cool. Like, all right.
Okay.
Bet. So so a couple projects came out. What was it? Paranoid came out.
Kari Chanel.
We were like, okay, I mean, not for me, whatever. So when Phil said P2, Paranoid 2, it was like, all right, let's give it a shot. So he listened to it first because he knew, what you said, and then he told me afterwards. So I'm gonna let him start. Phil, P2, Paranoid 2, man.
Well, first I gotta say, Kari Chanel, it was cool. It had some cool songs on there, but overall, I thought it was like he didn't. It wasn't a consistent album. It was like kind of like all over the place, and I thought I saw like I had like so much potential. Like I saw so much potential, like the fact that he got the cosign from Nas, and he got Nas talking on the joint, but then Nas doesn't rap, and then like he was supposed to be on Nas's label, Mass Appeal, and then like I guess like a few weeks before the album's supposed to drop, it's on Def Jam. It's like, all right, so they gave him the bag, whatever. But Def Jam's going through their own internal issues, so I don't think his albums had proper direction. I don't think they had like being an A&R is a lost art. And it's very rarely happens these days. And I don't think he got that the way a new artist should. Even though he's had a ton of mixtapes, it's different when you start to do a retail album, for a lot of different reasons. So flash forward to P2. I actually think P2 is better than anything that he's done prior to that, including Kari Chanel. And yeah, I do, for the simple fact, I think he's better. The songs might not necessarily be better, the features might not necessarily be better, but I think he's better as an artist. The biggest issue that I had with the album, though, two things. One, I did enjoy it. I don't know how much I'll be revisiting it, only because, again, he didn't have a direction. I think he needs. I want to say he needs like a Primo, or like a Pete Rock, somebody, a producer to work with that's that's been in the game a while that can like kind of like coach him along and hone his skills. Because like when I hear him, I hear like Guru from Gangstar. And Guru from Gangstar was made better by being with DJ Premier. He didn't necessarily have to be with DJ Premier, but it made him a better artist, made him a better MC. And then working together made each other better. I think Dave East kind of needs that. With the way Def Jam is currently constructed, they don't have those options in place. Hopefully when Paul Rosenberg officially takes over, that'll change. But as it is right now, he's doing it on his own. So I think he starts to go out of his comfort zone when he starts to do like the double time rapping, and it doesn't really seem to be him. And I think it takes away from what he does best, which is the storytelling, which is the street shit. Doing the stuff that kind of fits the sound for now doesn't really work with his skill set, in my opinion. So I actually enjoyed the album. There's some I don't never remember the names of songs anymore. But Corey was dope. Like I think he's a great storyteller. The whole concept of the song Corey, I thought was dope. Talk to Big, I thought was dope. Just like the whole, that whole concept and how he was feeling at the time, and it was a great opener for the album. So like, but when he starts to get into like the joint with T.I., I was kind of like,
it's annoying. Look, it's annoying.
Yeah. I see what you did there.
See what I did there?
I think that was him trying to cater to what he thinks people want to hear from him instead of doing what he does best. So if I was I don't know what kind of rating scale we giving it. If I was saying all right,
let's do it from 100.
Okay,
like a grade in the paper, right?
Yeah.
So out of 100, we'll go back to that's where we're gonna go back to you in a minute and get your grade. So Phil, what do you grade this, and I'll give you mine.
I would say overall, I would give it a 75.
Okay.
And I know we haven't done the rating things before with you, Jade. Him getting the 75 from me is very good, considering that I would be trashing most people right now.
Okay,
like real bad.
That's fair.
But I really like Dave. I think he's super talented. I just think he needs, like, I would love to see him work with one producer and just lock in with one producer and really like craft a project. That's not necessarily the I mean, it's kind of like been a wave with some artists to work with one producer. I mean, even Jay did it. But I think if he did it and got with a producer that fits his sound, I think he could make something really, really dope. Like just based off the storytelling, he could even do I could see him doing a concept album where the whole thing is a story and it just connects, kind of like a Good Kid type of album. And I think it could really be dope, but he has to get with the right producer to craft a sound that brings the best out of him. And I just don't think he's getting that right now. So
my take on it, just really quickly, what Phil is saying is actually pretty interesting, because if you could think about him with like, since he wants to kind of wave the Harlem flag, if you want to think of him with like Heat Makers, like they just give him, just their signature sound, a sound that we kind of love the Diplomats for. I think that's something that he possibly could go for. My gripe with him is, and I actually enjoyed the album too. My gripe with him though, like I think he actually is a nice guy. Like he seems like a nice person. And sometimes with our rappers, like not MCs, well, that's a whole nother thing. But with our rappers, our guys that we just feeling like if they weren't rapping, they would be in the streets. Like, so like my theory with MCs and rappers is really quick. Like I think MCs are like the type of guys where they're like creators, right? So if they weren't they weren't crafting bars and they weren't making lyrics, they would be doing something else in a creative sense and maybe maximizing their creative potential.
Some kind of artistic.
Some type of art. And then rappers are like, yo, like I'm only rapping so that I'm not climbing through your window. Like this is my hustle. You know, this is my hustle. I'm nice. Like I'm nice. Like Cameron always says, like I'm nice. I'm a businessman. I'm not trying to be lyrical. Like I feel like that's what rappers are. And Dave
I'm
is
a hustler that knows how to rap.
Right. Like Dave is a rapper, but I think he's a nice guy. Like he used to play ball with Kevin Durant. You know, like he was known as a basketball player. And like some of this, you know, I used to shave this and sell this and clap this and bang that. It doesn't really fit what my vision of him is, because I really see him as like a nice guy. Like, so when I'm listening to it, I'm always like kind of apprehensive because I'm like, it just doesn't seem like he's someone that, you know, that is necessarily living all of this. But that tells you what type of storyteller he is, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But if he took the Joey Badass route, where Joey came out, he more so took the nostalgic approach. Like, I sound like I was born in this era, so I'm gonna kind of give you this. I think he would really flourish, kind of what Phil was saying as far as locking in and, you know, maybe doing that. But overall for P2, as far as a grade for it, I probably would give it about an 83. I'm a little bit more of a lighter grader than Phil, based off of the fact that, I mean, I know what it takes to come up with, you know, this from him, and so does Phil. But I'm saying, like, from what he did as far as put out a project so close to Paranoid, a True Story, like it wasn't even that far ago. So it tells you, you know, he's putting in the work. It's just, it seems like we're watching him find himself. You know, like with Kendrick, like he kind of hit us consecutively. But if you look at from, you know, Overly Dedicated to when he finally got to Section 80, he took a little gap year to really get himself like, all right, this is I know people know me a little bit, but this is who I'm actually gonna hit the mainstream with. And I think he's just missing that. Like, that's just that part of his development that just wasn't honed in yet. Like, who am I? You know, like he could easily play the pretty thug rapper role, the Lloyd Banks kind of fabulous, you know, like, yo, I'm fresh, but don't get it twisted. I think he's kind of missing that. That's probably his lane, but he's also, you know, like, I'm also a deep thinker too, so let me give you these stories. But he's just maybe just not resonating a little bit. Like, the buzz that he had probably about 2 years ago compared to where we are now, it'll be interesting to see how he's able to flip that to regain some of that momentum. So
and again, I put that on Def Jam with the way Def Jam has been run the last several years. Taking on new artists, they haven't put their artists on the pedestal like they've done in the past. Like, there's no way you have a talent like his and not promote it the way, like, not saying he's Method Man or Redman, but, you know, like, I know like when it was the month of the man and they would, you know, I was out there handing out posters and flyers, you know, when that was a thing. So to not get the promotion and do we even know what the single was from P2? Do you know?
I don't think there is a single, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
If there is one, it's the joint with Tory Lanez.
Yeah,
true.
I mean, that would make sense. But again, the fact that we don't know for sure if that's the single, that's a problem. Yeah. You know, that should be pumped out to radio. That should be, you know, I mean, videos aren't really a thing like that, but I mean, you have to be out performing that, hitting stages.
And Jade, what is it? Is it a street album? Is it a mixtape? Is it it's not a studio album. Which one is it?
I think it would be classified as an EP, not an album, but it's definitely long enough.
It's got
15 songs.
It's got a lot of songs.
It's definitely long enough.
Well, this is what it officially says. It says 2017 Def Jam Recordings, a division of Universal Music Group, High Universal.
Yeah.
So by that, I would assume that it's an official, release through the label.
They try to hold on to the studio album title just because they know that's what people kind of really grade people off of. So
yeah,
this is it. What do you grade it? So I got an 83. Phil had a 75.
Yeah.
Okay, well, not to piggyback, but I am gonna agree with Phil. For me, it was a 75. If I'm being honest. If I'm not being honest, I'll probably give him an 85 just because I'm a Dave fan.
Okay.
But we can't do that. That's not what we're here for.
No doubt.
So I would say it's a 75 just because I felt like the album was a little bit too long. I feel like when you saturate an album like that, you just give people too much all at once. Even though there were only 2 songs that actually 3 that I could have did without, it was the skit that he did,
Yes.
the thank you.
Oh man.
And the grateful.
I'm right here with you. Oh
yeah. I don't know why he keeps running back to skits, but yeah, we could have cut that one out. I felt like storytelling wise, he definitely has shown his growth, which is great. But like you guys said, when it comes to sound and production and finding himself, we're still seeing him struggle through, which way he wants to go. So 75 for me. It wasn't my favorite project of his that he's done yet.
But do you think is it important if you're introducing him to a new audience? Do you think it's important for them to hear this one because it's the most recent one, or because it's a good representation of who he is as an artist?
I would say because it's the most recent one, but not because it's a good representation of who he is. For me, I always felt like Kyrie Chanel really told you Dave and where he wants to go as far as superstardom. Mm-hmm. And Paranoia, A True Story just gave you the insight on where he was coming from. So for this is kind of just filler for me, even though it does give more insight onto like his lyrical ability and his storytelling. But it wouldn't be like the first project that I hand somebody. Definitely.
So do you think this era is just there's such pressure on artists to keep their name fresh, to keep their name out there? And he's somebody that's obviously a studio rat. He's always in the studio making songs. You think it's just the pressure of I have to put something out, and it's so easy to, like, you don't have to print these out. You don't have to print out, 10,000 copies of this. You can literally just put it on for people to stream, and it keeps your name going. Do you think that's just where we are now, where we're just going to just end up getting so much material from artists like Dave and just have to kind of just sift through it and see what we like and don't like?
I think so. I definitely think so.
Do you like that?
I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. I guess it really depends on which artist you're talking about. And, you really have to find the people that can hone in on that and, do it well to a T.
I feel like if you're a Dave East fan, like, you've been fed well over the past 3 years.
Definitely. Even before he got on.
Yeah. And that's something to where if you're a fan of someone, like that's all you can ask for. It's like, to me, like that's really what it's about. Like, for you to maximize the most out of their time, like, because it's going to be a time where nobody's checking for you, so you might as well.
Yeah. So that's like, it could go, because people want to be relevant. They want to have people keep talking about them. They don't want to be the artist that comes back and people are like, oh, where have you been? And then there's also the factor of, people aren't making as much as they used to from just their music. They have to do touring. They have to, sell merchandise and all these other things. So it's like, well, how do you get on a tour? You have to have music. Nobody wants to hear the same 10 songs from the last album that you did 6 months ago. So I guess there really is a pressure to be consistently putting out new things. I don't know if that's a good thing though.
you want to be Kevin Hart, but you don't want to be Kevin Hart. And what I mean by that is you want to be successful, you want to be consistent, but you don't want to oversaturate yourself.
Yeah, like you said, that was the word right there. That totally oversaturated. That totally kind of explains where we are with this one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was a P3 before he came out with a studio album.
Let's hope not, because that would be pushing it. But
and again, I just think he really just needs to find. The reason I like this album is because I think he's grown lyrically, and it does give you insight. But like, I think he needs to kind of mesh his growth with the energy from Kyrie Chanel, and I think if he can kind of combine those two, I think he can find that lane. I still think he needs. I think he needs one or two producers to work with, like using the Heat Makers would be. I hadn't thought about that, but that would be a great fit for his sound. They're established in the game. They could make the music to fit what he does and bring the best out of him. You need to make that happen, yo. You put him on.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm dead. Let's see what we can do. Honestly,
Dave's next project.
I mean, that could be your next. That can be your next piece. You could talk about
next project, right?
Why Dave East needs to be with the Heat Makers. Yeah. There you go.
Let's see what we can do.
That would be fun.
Before we actually get to the end of the show, and we do just a little bit more maintenance on this, I just wanted to just double back and just go back to Low End Theory. As far as grading it, Phil and I just basically lauded about it and said we probably thought it was a perfect album.
Yeah, I'm stupid with my rating, so
although he thinks it's a perfect album, Phil, what do you rate Low End Theory out of 100?
Well, obviously saying perfect would obviously mean it would have 100, but not quite. Although I do think it, I would give it really 1991 Phil would say, "Oh yeah, it's 100 off, of course." But like listening to it right now, I still grade it super high. I have it at about a 95. There's a couple things that definitely stand out in 2018 that I was like, classic example. I was like, yeah, that just doesn't work right now. I understand what they were trying to do, but even then, I didn't think they executed it well. It was funny, and one song I wanted to ask you about in particular, Jay, the importance of a sky pager. How familiar are you with the vaunted sky pager?
Okay, so I remember pagers being a thing. Not for a long time, though, for me, from when I was born. I think the last time I saw a pager, I had to be like maybe 3 years old.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so,
You owe the shit,
boy! How old were you guys?
Yeah, I had one, so...
Yeah, I definitely had one. And that was like the crown jewel of my teen years, for sure.
You couldn't tell me that. And that was like having like... That was like having like the newest iPhone. That was the iPhone.
You felt popping every time it rang, right?
Oh no, I didn't have to feel popping. I was.
Yeah.
There was just to see it, and it was like it was like having whatever name brand belt you wanna say. It was that. It was that sky pager was whatever logo buckle you wanna say Laurent.
That's a good way to put it. Like you would be like,
you make a point to and show your little, you know what I mean?
Wow.
But the one thing, so I'm from, again, I'm from antiquated, old racist Virginia, and you actually could not take those to school. You would get suspended for 10 days if you had a pager.
Wow.
In high, like I know,
it was that
like,
much of a
like
disruption.
one of my closest friends, she actually lost. She actually ended up she was a year ahead of me. She actually ended up graduating with me because it wasn't even her pager. She was holding someone's pager, like she just had it, and she got caught with it, and then essentially, like, yeah, she got suspended for the rest of the school year. She wasn't able to finish
because the perception was that's what you were about to say.
The perception was that you were dealing drugs or you were involved in something that was a little bit more
extracurricular.
Exactly.
Wow.
And I think about it now, like however many years later, my little sister was walking the same hallways, several years later. And she had an iPhone. So I was just like, it's just the evolution of things, But that sky pager, man, that was it signified something too. Like we're saying, like it meant something to us, but it also meant something to the culture.
It meant something totally different to others. Because while it wasn't banned in our school, it was definitely, you would definitely put on like a little list. Like they didn't officially write your name down, but they were watching.
It's like a no-fly list.
Okay.
Yeah, and then cops, if they saw him, you were automatically, hey, come here, let me holler at you for a minute.
It was all a part of Reaganomics, Reagan era. Like,
this was like the birth of stop and frisk.
Okay.
It was
the block
like,
was hot.
Yeah, it was hot. And the thing that made it hotter is because so many of the people that had them, it was a style thing because the artists that we looked up to had, they made a song about it. So we just told you how important this was. We're 12 years old. You hear that song, first thing, I got to get a sky pager.
Got to.
Yeah, but knowing at the same time that what the perception of that is. Now, it got to the point where you could go to a corner store, a poppy store, bodega, whatever you want to call it, and get them. It got to that point, and then it also got to the point where people would have them and they wouldn't be real. They wouldn't work.
Yeah, they wouldn't work.
They would just crazy. They have them clipped on. They had little colors. I mean, it was any accessory that you could think of now.
That's crazy.
What would you consider the sky pager of today? I guess beats.
Yeah.
When beats were like
like 5 years ago. Beats.
Yeah, beats were the everybody had to have. They were popping, and then you start seeing.
Yeah, you
pop up.
Yeah, you were good. The belt too, though.
The belt is
the Hermes belt, the Louis belt.
Make sure you see the H. That was the thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but that so I mean, you think about the things that people make songs about now, and it's funny to hear like the equivalent to that in 1991 was the sky page.
Yeah. So Phil, you said 95.
95 for me.
I say 97. And Jade, what do you say?
Oh gosh.
Look at this shirt. All right, now run the jewels.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well,
no, keep it true to you. Don't go by.
There's no judgment here. We really just are interested in your opinion. So whatever you say. It'll cool.
For me, I'm going to have to say it was a 70. For me.
No,
I know that stings a little bit, right?
Yeah. A little bit. It's okay. Sorry.
Not for
no, but
not for its impact on a cultural level or just its place in history, not for that, just for my experience of what I'm used to when I'm generally listening to music. The production was really minimal. The style of rapping is definitely not anything that is close to what we have today. And there were a couple tracks that I could have done without. Maybe for you guys, not so much. You do have your classic ones. I think Butter is probably like Check the Rhyme, Scenario. Like those are the ones that you can't deny. But I would say the What track, that one was like, did it really need to be there? Or, what's the impact of this today? But I think it was a good album for pushing a dialect or pushing a dialogue at the time, because they did touch on a lot of positivity, Black power, even everyday life of just chilling on the block with your friends or being in school and trying to talk to the chick that's fly. And it's a very down to earth album, so I can understand why you guys give it the rating that you do.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, it shaped us, like literally, like it, where, just in a way that's just hard to describe. So, I mean, I respect your rating, and I totally get where you're coming from as far as you listening to it and kind of try to immerse yourself and to try to just put yourself in the shoes of someone listening to it, and then also just you listening to it too. Like there's two different ways
you even listening to it, because
right.
Because I have friends that I consider brothers.
Yeah.
That are
that consider themselves hip hop aficionados, in fact.
Oh gosh.
If you ask them.
If you ask them. Nobody's ever gonna call them that, but if you ask them. Yeah.
And they won't listen to it. Wow.
Haven't heard it.
They haven't heard it.
You could probably quote. I heard you in the first 5 minutes of this podcast quote a line from the song. They couldn't. I promise.
Wow.
They couldn't. Yeah,
but they I mean, other than a line from Scenario, which is probably the most famous song from the album.
Yeah, and the video was super iconic. So they definitely have their
Did you watch the video?
For sure.
You watched?
I did. It's dope.
Yeah, Spike, that's the video that Spike did.
Yeah.
It was a dope video. It definitely
that was a big deal when he did that. It was like like a big pat on the back, like kind of accomplishment.
Even watching it now, it still stands among the videos that we have out now. When you think creativity wise and all the concepts that they put into doing what they did with the technology that they had at the time, it's pretty iconic.
Yeah,
that's definitely. I hadn't even thought about it in those terms, but because what was what they did was probably the highest of high tech at the time. So that's something you could do on your phone now, which is crazy. But so Scenario, I meant to send you, because I know it's not something that was part of the album, but I meant to send you Scenario the remix just to get your thoughts on it. So I'll send you that. But it's what Joe Budden ended up using for Pump It Up is the backdrop, the beat that he ended up using for Pump It Up is the remix to Scenario. But no, this is cool, man. Were there any tracks that stood out to you that you said, okay, like this is something that I could rock with, or
It sounds like she said Butter. I think
Butter was cool. Everybody likes Check the Rhyme. I thought the infamous Date Rape, not that I would sit there and bump it for fun, but I think, the lyrical content of what he was talking about, I think that was pretty dope to be talking about at that time, because I don't think a lot of rappers were really being that candid, to speak on subjects like that, so that was dope for sure. But those are the ones that stood out to me: Excursions, Butter, Check the Rhyme, Infamous, Date Rape, Scenario. I think those were the best for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
For me.
So I feel like this went smooth. Like this went smoother than I thought. Like I don't know what I was expecting.
What did you think it was gonna be?
I didn't know. You know, like,
fuck that
yeah, fuck that shit. I want to listen to that shit. These old niggas.
Yeah, I didn't think it was gonna be that. But I just, you know, I just wanted, now that we know, like, man, we could definitely do this exchange program again for sure. Like, and I'm confident that I'm confident that we can get like your honest opinion, and you're like, you were very thoughtful about it. So that's all we ask.
Thank you.
Like that's what we're looking for, and we appreciate.
I like this a lot.
Yeah, we appreciate you taking the time out to actually just come on here.
Next mission, should you choose it?
Yeah, we definitely got it. And,
well, thank you for giving me the opportunity and being receptive to hearing, you know, and to wanting to include. I really appreciate that.
For our listeners, so tell them about the newsletter, like how they can actually be a part of the list. Let them know how they can find you on social media as well.
Okay, well, you can find me on social media at 24Jaded. That's 24. Jaded. If you can't spell that, then I can't help you.
Hey man, J A
it's true.
D E D. Because hey man, I love everybody that listens, but
yeah, you never know.
Common sense ain't so common. I tell people all the time.
That's a fact.
If you would like to subscribe to the newsletter or just check any articles that I have posted up, you can go to 24jaded.com. There will be a subscription box that will pop up. You can enter your email and, you know, keep updated with all the newsletters, all the articles, all the playlists, everything. It's a one-stop shop.
There it is. So when we see you out in the street, should we just say Jade or should we say 24Jaded?
Or
Jade is cool. Yeah, Jada Pickett Smith is cool. Jory Lane, Jade East, you know, whatever works. I promise I'll turn around.
How often does the newsletter come out?
So I try to do maybe 2 a month. I don't like to oversaturate. You know, if anything, maybe I'll do 3.
Yeah.
But 3 is definitely max. So probably every other week.
And in the playlist, you put those together
once a month. The 24th of each month. Yeah.
Nice. As in, as by the time you guys hear this,
Saturday.
You would have already got the newest. Can I put you on playlists?
One last thing. It's just been in terms of our culture, for people of color, for ladies, for creators. It's been a great couple of weeks. Just wanted to get your thoughts on Black Panther. Have you seen it? And what do you think about it, just overall?
I haven't seen it. I do plan to. I have been wanting to hear thoughts about it. So if you want to share your thoughts and just tell me what you guys thought of it, that would be interesting.
So you have to give Phil a disclaimer. So Phil, can you give us the short version of how you feel about it?
Without going into a whole diatribe, I think it was one of the most positive cinematic experiences for Black people that I've seen in quite some time. Just the fact that it was directed by a 31-year-old African American director. The cast was 90%, Black. It's the second biggest opening movie in the history of movies, and the only thing that's bigger than that is a movie that people waited 30 years for, episode 1 of Star Wars. So just on those 2 things alone, it was special, and the fact that it was actually a good movie. Even though it's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you can see it without having to have seen the other previous movies and be cool. You won't be lost, because it stands up on its own, and you're almost guaranteed to have, at least 2 more, just based off the success and the quality of the work. So definitely shout out to everybody involved. And we're going to talk more in depth about this. Probably do a little mini podcast on it, but you know that's just my my 49 cents. Wakanda forever.
Just real quick, anything that galvanizes people, young, old, white, black, fat, skinny, like whatever. Like I've heard so many different stories that people that want to see it, people that did see it, people that had these experiences where they hadn't been to the theaters in 20 years, but this was the one movie that got them out to go. And they enjoyed the experience so much that they're gonna go again. Like anything that galvanizes people, I'm a fan of. Anything that galvanizes minorities, I'm a super fanatic of. So just the fact that there's something like this is actually thoughtful. Like it's not just something that was just put together. It's something that people put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I was already sold on it by then. The fact that the story is something that I kind of was hoping would be told one day, and it finally did.
Yeah,
that's just the icing on the cake. So my suggestion for anybody that is looking to see it, don't hesitate. Don't think that you're going to walk away from this experience regretting it. I'm guaranteeing you will at least walk away saying, wow, I did not waste my time, and that was a really good movie going experience, if nothing else. And that's all you can ask for these days.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's for sure.
Everything else is a bonus, so yeah, please, I'm imploring everybody, if you have little sisters, cousins, nieces,
Sons,
nephews, daughters, of that age to where they can kind of take in something and walk away from it, thinking about it and provoking some thought. And there's some great questions that can be asked based off of watching this, and some great conversations that can be held as well. Looking forward to you're our people now, so looking for all of our people to be able to see it, for us to be able to have conversations about it for years to come. Like Phil said, it definitely be a franchise that'll be around. So looking forward to hearing your take on it when you see it.
Yeah, I mean, what I can say for now, I think it's definitely important to acknowledge the fact that you have a 31-year-old person of, color that's directing the film and is in a position of power to help shape the narrative. And, outside of
Absolutely.
whatever the plot or the theme of the movie is, another thing that a lot of parents could teach their kids to take away from the film is, there's a person of color like you that created this, and you can do it too, and this is how we can kind of try to take our stab at reforming or changing society. Because if we had more minorities and young people shaping the narratives of the things that we're actively consuming, it could really have a positive effect on society like we're seeing right now. So hopefully that's something else that people will take away from it too.
I think it's going to have a great residual effect on the way that people view Black stories and also Black consumers, because they definitely know that we spend, as far as people of color, Black, brown, but they also know that that we have the power to influence, and that's the part that's kind of scary sometimes.
Yeah.
When they see that we can use this influence for good, then things start to change a little bit, not too much, but a little bit. So that's what I'm looking forward to see as time goes by. Like what's the next thing that maybe wouldn't have been greenlit that actually gets that opportunity based.
That gets an opportunity.
Yeah.
Besides another Kevin Hart movie.
Yeah.
Word.
And I love Kev too, man. But
yeah.
We know where you're coming from. That's pretty much everybody at this point. We kind of know what our guys bring to the table, and that's fine.
Yeah.
If you want to go see Jumanji and you see my man jump up and down on the rock's back 10 times, that's on you. If you can sleep at night doing that, that's fine. But
we just need a variety of context.
Exactly. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking to Jade, aka 24Jaded, new member of the cipher that we call our members of the Tissue and the Tape family. We salute you.
Thank you.
Thank you for going into the wee hours with us. We're night owls, so this is nothing for us, but we don't know how that applies to you. But
nah, this is cool. This is fine.
Okay, we'll have to do this again.
Definitely, most definitely. It was a pleasure. It was fun talking with you guys, and hearing your knowledge that you have for me. So, and anytime.
And we're gonna collaborate too. Don't think this is just a one-off. We got some.
No, that's fine. I'm always down.
All right,
I'm always down.
Yeah, and before you go, I need to know, man, because I got a little hole in my podcast schedule. When are you guys coming back, man?
Oh,
are you guys coming back?
That's a good question. Hopefully so. I really can't give you a date. We were hoping to be back by March, but I think Ivy, she's still trying to balance having a job at this record label, and there's so many things that come with that, to prioritizing, your personal life and wanting to do this part of the industry. So I don't know. We will keep you posted. Hopefully, at some point we do. But for now, I don't know.
We'll definitely be looking out for you guys, because the chemistry was dope. I love listening. You always gave me new insight and what was going on in the city. So I definitely appreciated it. And until then, keep rocking with us.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Salute. Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. You guys have a good night.
All right, you too. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Yes, sir, Vod.
Philmatic, once again, man. There's so many beautiful people in this industry, man. From their words to their presence to their love for this actual thing that we call hip hop, and it's always great to be able to break bread, man. There's nothing like having a conversation about something that you love, like hip hop, man.
It's a unifying force, man.
It really is.
It's like vibranium.
We're gonna talk about that, man. There's some people that we know that were team Killmonger. And there were some people that we know that were team T'Challa.
Yeah, I was a little
people that were in the middle, kind of conflict.
T'Challa-monger.
Yeah. they both made good points, but this is something that we're gonna talk about on our mini podcast.
Yeah, man, we I think Black Panther has it definitely deserves its own standalone pod. So we'll reconvene on that one.
It's something that we're gonna be asking people, like, yo, have you seen BP yet? And
absolutely,
if they say no, it's gonna be like bar exam 4. What you mean?
Hit them every top of the hour, like what you waiting on.
Yeah, exactly. You actually reminded me of something. So we might have a little treat for that too, as well. So stay tuned, everybody, man. We got some ideas. We got some things we're working out. We appreciate everybody rocking out with us. Tissue and the Tape forever. Wakanda forever. Philmatic, take us out with the fader.
You already know. I definitely want to give one more shout out to the lovely 24Jaded for rocking with the Heat Holderz. You are official Tissue and the Tape extended family. We definitely appreciate your time. Definitely wanted to give a shout out to of course my guy RJ Payne and everything he has going on, the whole Educated Ignorance team. Wanted to give a shout out to Rick G's. Hey man, yeah. We got some shit. King Shamps, Del P, all the people that rock with us and all the people that we rock with. Our cipher's getting a lot bigger. Working on some new material and new content to bring to y'all. But until that time comes, you know what it is. Work for the money, live for the love, and die for what you believe in. This is Tissue and the Tape. Respect Heat Holderz.
Heat Holderz.
Wakanda forever.